Hello and welcome to Growing Through Connection, a podcast that explores the life-changing impact of emotionally focused therapy. Join us as we discover how EFT helps create and secure lasting connections, leading to more fulfilling lives. In this special first season, we offer a series of short conversations with the late Dr. Sue Johnson, the pioneering visionary behind EFT. Sue shares her personal journey, reflects on the evolution of her work, and offers powerful insights into the science of emotional connection. So settle in and enjoy this unique opportunity to get to know Sue while discovering how EFT can deepen your relationships and enrich your life in ways you'd never imagined.
Sue, can you tell me about the defining moment that led you to discover emotionally focused therapy?
Oh, I don't think there was one defining moment. I think I started working with couples, realizing I couldn't do it and neither could anyone else. And I started taping couples and looking at tapes and looking at the things that I did that seemed to work, looking at the things that didn't work. And particularly, of course, I was focused on working with emotion because that's my training. I was a Rogerian therapist. So I think what started to happen was I started to watch these tapes. And after a few months, I started to see couples changing. And they were having these completely different conversations. And when they had these different conversations, they changed as individuals. They became more open and more sure of themselves and more supportive. So I would sit there with my mouth open and think, oh, so clients really taught me EFT and knowing how to work with emotion and emotional music. But I didn't really understand anything about attachment at that point. I just knew that suddenly these people were changing and growing. And I thought, oh my God. So, I wrote up this tiny little manual. I think it was 6 pages typed and said I wanted to look at the results for my thesis, which was ridiculous. Okay, honestly, for a graduate student, it was like beyond pretentious, but I did it anyway, knowing me. And I remember one of the defining moments was in those days, the computers would send out reams of sheets of paper on. And I remember doing this research project, and I remember looking at the results. And they came out on the floor. It was late in the evening in the lab. And I looked at these results and I thought, no, that's a mistake. It's obviously a mistake. Everyone wants their research project to work. I was comparing it to a skill building exercise, which had some validation. And I thought, well, maybe it might start to be maybe a little bit as powerful as the skill building, which I didn't really believe in, right? And I looked at these results and I thought, no, that's a mistake. So I ran it 3 more times. And then I sat down on the floor and cried because I thought, oh my God, right? And so that was a defining moment. I thought, bloody hell, we've discovered something. And so I wrote it up and I got it accepted by the most prestigious journal in the field, which again, I sat there with my mouth open, like, what? Oh, they accepted it. They accepted it. Oh. And so that was a moment. And I think, there have been other defining moments that have supported our way of thinking and our research. Like I did a brain scan study with my wonderful colleague, Jim Cohn from the University of Virginia, where he was able to show on an MRI that when couples had these wonderful bonding conversations, that the person who was threatened in the MRI with shocks on their feet, once their partner held their hand, the way their brain dealt with threat was totally different, which is what attachment science said. And those have been inspiring and encouraged me to keep going. But I think the other defining moment was when I suddenly had a sort of corny, aha, emotional epiphany in a bar, wouldn't you believe, typical for me, drinking a scotch, talking about a conversation in a conference where I realized that these couples were having bonding conversations. And the whole of John Bowlby and his research, which was just about mothers and kids, Nobody talked about adult attachment in those days. It was most not okay. Don't you know, adults were self-sufficient, right? So anything else was a weakness, right? Almost a mental illness to depend on others. And I suddenly realized, my God, they're having bonding conversations. So then I started to talk about adult attachment, which probably made me the most unpopular young professor in North America for a while. So those were defining moments, and we're still having them. Now I do EFIT, and I watch my tapes, and I go, right, this person is now creating a secure connection with themselves, with the most vulnerable part of themselves. And that changes everything. It changes how they deal with their emotions, how they see themselves, how they relate to others. Same. This is how human beings grow. So yeah, there's been a few defining moments.
Thank you for joining us on Growing Through Connection. As we conclude, remember that connection is at the heart of human experience. Keep exploring, keep connecting, and we'll see you next time on Growing Through Connection. This podcast is a production of Sue Johnson. Learn more about EFT at drsuejohnson.com and at the International Center for Excellence in Emotionally Focused Therapy site at iceft.com. To find a qualified emotionally focused therapist in your area, visit iceft.com and click on our Find an EFT Therapist directory. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and be sure to tell your friends. Until next time, stay connected.